Fellow babies, welcome back to this week's Pachter Factor, brought to you on SIFTD.net. If you're a subscriber, you're seeing this first. If you're not, you should be, but you can be seeing this a week later on YouTube. SIFTD.net has something coming up for the holidays. You can get a gift subscription. You can request it. If you'd like to request it on the site, you can go to SIFTD.net/gifted, or you can put this on your Amazon wish list and you can request that one of your loved ones honor you with the privilege of making you a SIFTD.net member so you can see Pachter Factor real time when it's broadcast. Those of you who are not on SIFTD.net, we understand everybody can't afford it or maybe chooses not to afford it. We'll have it on YouTube a week later, and so there's Pachter loving for all of Pachter's fellow babies. Thanks for joining us on Pachter Factor. Let's get to the questions. All right, fellow babies, we have a question from SIFTD from Lashiek. Hypothetically, what would the Pach think about Blizzard making World of Warcraft 2? Would it make sense now? Ever? I think never. I think that expansion packs do that. So sure, you could make a brand new game, put everybody down at level 1, make everybody level up to level 95 again. I think you'd lose a lot of players. I don't think that they could do anything that would get people really excited about it. If they ever were to do a completely separate World of Warcraft game, I think they'd do it free to play and do some kind of in-game purchases, but not the subscription model. So I don't think so. I think their subscribers are down to a low enough level that they don't want to betray the few million that remain by causing them to start over again. I think they're just going to keep giving them more content, keep them engaged. So no, I think that if they do anything different, it won't be World of Warcraft, it'll be something else. If you meant new engine and you meant just upgrading the game, sure. I think that that's something that they likely will do, but I don't think that they're going to redo the game. I mean, I could see them saying, uninstall the game that you own and reinstall this new version, but you pick up right where you left off. So that I could see, but it's a lot of work, and I'm not sure that there's much benefit to doing it. I mean, again, that's something I could even see them doing it like a operating system update, where essentially you just download a whole new OS and we just pick up all of your attributes and everything and you start where you left off. They could do that without you having to do too much, but nope, don't think you're going to get a new game. Okay, we have a question from SIFTD from Mac Eaton. Do you think that the FIG crowdfunding platform will be successful now that it has changed its stance on accredited investors? At a high level, how do investments from unaccredited and accredited individuals work? Okay, I got to tell you, I don't understand the legality behind what FIG is doing. And when I say that, I understand the law. I don't know how FIG is dealing with, making sure that it complies with the law. But the law in the U.S., not elsewhere, the law in the U.S. says that you can't solicit an investment from an unaccredited investor. And simply stated, forget all the requirements. You can go to FIG and look at a couple 100,000 of income or the million of net worth, whatever. But simply stated, the law is intended to protect people who don't know any better. And so they don't want you to go mortgage your house if you make $10,000 a year and you inherited a house from your grandma. They don't want you to go mortgage your house for $300,000 when it's worth $400,000 and then go put it all into a single investment, lose it all, and then you lose your house. They don't want that to happen. So the government regulates how capital is raised, and you cannot raise money from unaccredited investors for risky investments. So FIG is trying to raise money for games that haven't been made yet. By definition, if the game hasn't been made yet, it's risky. And you can say, well, no, what if it's being made by somebody who's great? So the problem is, if you don't understand the legality of what you're investing in, and you don't understand the obligation of what the person raising the funds, has to you, you might not know your rights to enforce that obligation, and you might not get your money back. So risky investments mean the risk is you lose everything. And what if you did invest in something that just didn't work? I mean, what if you invested in a company that was making typewriters? They're probably not going to sell any right now because we don't need them anymore. So they're hoping that wealthy people who are limited in how much they can actually invest in a particular investment can afford to lose the money if they do, and because they're wealthy, more likely than not are educated enough or have access to someone who is educated who can advise them on whether the investment is appropriate. So FIG absolutely can raise money from accredited investors, and they do. My understanding of what they do for unaccredited investors is they give them something that's a little bit different type of investment. So it's a different investment pool. It looks like they're structuring it more as a partnership. They're pooling all the money together, and I think they are limiting the amount that people can put into that pool so that no one can lose too much money. And I think it was $1,000, which again, if you only make $1,000 a year, it's all the money in the world. But if you make $200,000 a year, it's not that much money. But I think they've limited the amount for unaccredited, and I'm not sure if what they're doing is in compliance with the law. So as I recall, when I last looked at FIG, they were holding off accepting money from unaccredited investors until they determined whether they were legally allowed to do it with the structure that they proposed. So the question, how successful will they be? Remember, crowdfunding before FIG was really not an investment. You weren't expecting to get your money back. You were buying a copy of a game. So you put $50 in and you get a credit at the end of the game, and you get a free copy of the game. I participated in crowdfunding a book by Gary Whitta called Abomination. I gave $100, and in exchange for my $100, I got 3 hardbound copies of the book and a digital copy. I got a great value. I'm very happy, spending $25 a copy for the book. It was worth it. It was a great book. And I got my name mentioned in the credits at the end. It was totally worth it to me. But I didn't invest. So if Gary sells 10 million copies of the book and makes, $100 million profit, I don't get anything more. I just got the book. So my funding was giving him enough money to get his book published, not investing in his book operation and expecting a return. Think of Tim Schafer, and he just wants to make games. I mean, I don't think Tim Schafer is about the money at all, but he certainly doesn't want to lose his house to make a game. So he'll crowdfund a game, and I think he's perfectly happy if he makes, $1 million profit, paying out the bulk of that to his investors. I don't think he has any trouble with that at all, because he just wants to make games, and he delights in making everybody else, happy with the games he creates. So sure, I think there's plenty of developers who would love to make more games and share the profits with anybody who wants to invest in them. But again, crowdfunding for unaccredited investors is just very difficult to pull off because the law prevents outfits like FIG from raising money from people who aren't permitted to invest. So I think they're going to come up with a structure to let you invest. It's not clear to me you're going to get a return. My guess is they'll do a hybrid. They'll do accredited investors who expect a return. They'll do unaccredited investors who are essentially buying a copy of the game. So it'll be kind of a hybrid between what FIG was before, what Kickstarter is now, but we'll see. Don't know the answer. We have a question from SIFTD from Vinuraba. We've seen the Titanfalls. We've seen Titanfall's player base dwindle. There are already complaints of Star Wars Battlefront not having enough content, and last gen Black Ops 3 has no single player. Do you think multiplayer only AAA releases will stay around, and if so, should they be priced as full price $60 games? I think that's a great question, and I've often wondered why games don't have 2 components, a single player for one fee and multiplayer for another. I think that the games that kind of invented multiplayer, which, you know, there have been many, but you could say Half-Life turning into Counter-Strike or Call of Duty or Halo. You know, you kind of wonder why they even have a single player campaign, because so many people pick up the game and play multiplayer only. And it's almost as if you could sell a multiplayer only game and then sell a single player campaign as DLC. I don't think that that's likely to happen anytime soon. And I was real surprised when Titanfall first was announced as multiplayer only. I was more surprised when Star Wars Battlefront was announced as multiplayer only. So, you know, I think that there is enough interest in multiplayer and enough people who don't care about the single player campaign that multiplayer only is here to stay. Should they be priced as full $60 games? I don't think it matters what I think about should or would. They're going to be priced as full price $60 games. The publishers aren't giving anything away. And what I think is kind of amazing is that games have been $60 for over 10 years. And they're going to be $60 probably in perpetuity. It is surprising to me that they haven't tried to charge $70 or $80 for games, but they haven't. And especially as games have gone from essentially 1 month, 30 kind of hour experiences to, in the case of Destiny, 3 hours a day. In the case of Call of Duty, 10 hours a week, forever. So the idea that you used to be done with a game in a month and now you're continuing to play the same game for a year or more. I mean, Destiny players are well into their second year and they're not letting up for that same $60 is kind of shocking. The way that the publishers make up for that is they sell you DLC. And DLC used to be optional. It used to be just map packs, and if you didn't want to go into the new map with your buddies, you could stay in the old map and keep playing. What they've done that I think was innovative with Destiny is that in order to increase your level cap, you had to buy the expansion pack. Now, we saw that in subscription games, and we saw that in World of Warcraft. And I think moving that over, morphing that into Destiny was really smart, because guys who are still playing don't want to be level 32 anymore if everybody else is level 36 or level 40. And they want to level up because, obviously the higher level guys have more skills, more power, better weapons, can do more stuff. So I think that instead of asking about whether multiplayer only should be $60, start asking what's the all-in cost of playing Destiny, because the all-in cost of playing Destiny is up to $140 and counting. If you bought everything when it came out, you paid $60, $20, $20, and $40. I read a bunch of guys bitching and moaning that the Taken King expansion was not fair because it was bundled with the first two expansions in the original Destiny for $60 or $80. I think it might have been $60 actually. The idea that you could buy $140 worth of stuff for $60, people were saying not fair. I think the publishers are teaching you a lesson. Wait a year. Of course, if you wait a year, you're going to be 40 levels below everybody else, and you're going to get your ass kicked while you try to catch up. But it's a really interesting dilemma, because the publishers are giving you hundreds of hours more of gameplay for that same $60. They need to get paid for creating all that content, and the way they're getting paid is they're offering you, level cap lifts on expansion packs, and you're paying for it. So frankly, I think that the all-in cost of playing a game is going to keep going up. I heard recently that Activision is considering offering Call of Duty expansion packs beyond the year after release. So you should expect Black Ops 3 will have map packs in 2016 and map packs in 2017. I'll bet you see 6 or 8 map packs for Black Ops 3. They will keep selling you stuff as long as you keep playing that game. So the cost of playing Call of Duty is probably going to approach $200 per version if you keep playing the game forever. And I like the way I said per version, because it is kind of perverted. All right, we have a question from SIFTD.net. The Stand User. The Stand User? What kind of name is that? Or Thestin Doozer. Coach. I love doing these names. Do betas hurt game sales? And then you answer the question in your question. If the beta runs too long, I get burned out. If the gap between the end of a beta and the game's release is too wide, I tend to forget about the game. All right, I think you answered your own question. Look, I think betas are helpful to generate interest in the game. And, sometimes they help and sometimes they hurt. There was a statistic thrown out there by the DICE guys that Star Wars Battlefront had 9 million players in the beta. I think immediately people figured, oh my God, this game's going to sell 20 million units, and it's probably not even sold 9 yet. It's December. So I don't know. Did it hurt? Well, apparently every single person who played the beta didn't buy the game yet. But did they all put it on the Christmas list so grandma could buy it for them at Christmas? Maybe. I think betas can help. Betas can hurt. If executed well, they drive interest in the game. I think that the most important aspect of a beta is to help the developers fine-tune the game and figure out what works and what doesn't work. And betas, are, as you know, are free. You guys tend to bitch and moan a lot about free stuff. So those of you not on SIFTD.net, remember, you have no right to bitch and moan about anything I say. So I don't want to hear about it on Twitter. I blocked somebody today who bitched about something I said on Pachter Factor, and he's not a SIFTD.net subscriber, bastard. So look, you guys bitch about free stuff. Don't bitch. It's free. You paid nothing. Don't worry about it. So the answer is, yeah. I mean, if the beta is too long, people get too much of the game, and that doesn't happen that often. If the gap between the end of the beta and the release is too wide, they forget about the game. That also doesn't happen. I mean, the Star Wars beta, I want to say, was in September and October, and the game came out in November. So no, that's not too long a gap. If the beta was in February and the game came out in November, yeah, that would be too wide, but that doesn't happen. I mean, I think the publishers are pretty well attuned to, driving interest and building momentum into the game launch. And the betas are not the complete game. They're literally just a small area. You can't level up to infinity in a beta. They're just there enough to give you a taste and make you really want it. Think about a beta like walking through Costco and there's a sample of bacon. It's like nobody can eat a quarter of a piece of bacon and not want more. That's what a beta is. All right, so I've got to do a bold prediction on the Pachter Factor. I'm ready for this one to be wrong. So I'm going to do one because you guys counting, I got to get one wrong. So here it is. I'm going to get one wrong. I don't think the NX is coming in 2016. Reason I don't think so is I have not yet heard a peep about a dev kit. Now, I must say, my contacts in Japan aren't that great. My contacts in the West are. But if any Western developer had a dev kit who knows me, I think they would have told me by now. And they wouldn't tell me when the launch date was or what they were working on. They just say, we have a dev kit. So I'm appealing to those of you developers out there who are watching this to send me an email. I won't forward it to anybody. And tell me you have one and say, shut up, the NX is coming. All the speculation about the NX has come because the late Mr. Iwata mentioned it several months ago, I guess 8 or 9 months ago. And there was a report out of Japan from Digitimes that all the different contract manufacturers and component suppliers had kind of been rumored to have created enough or committed to enough components to manufacture 10 to 12 million of them in 2016. Well, Digitimes is pretty good. And they tend not to just make stuff up, but just think about that. I mean, we've had maybe 12 million Wii U's sold in 3 years. Do you actually think Nintendo would make 12 million NXs in year one? I mean, yes, if it's $50. So yes, if it's a handheld and it's just like the replacement for the 3DS, sure, they would do that. If it's a console and it's going to be $300, there is no way they're making 10 or 12 million of those. There's no way. They'd rather launch with 2 or 3 million and then just in time, catch up when it's sold out. So no, and it's a year ahead of time. My guess is that the components are not that complex. They are not state-of-the-art, cutting-edge, brand new bleeding edge materials. My guess is it's all commodity. So no, you don't have to line it up that far in advance. So I find it hard to believe. I think the lack of dev kits, at least as far as I'm aware, suggests very little or no software support from third parties. And if you don't have software, how are you going to launch a console? Final comment on my bold prediction. Nintendo's history has been to announce a console around E3, launch it a year and a half later. We didn't get an announcement at this year's E3, and in fairness, Mr. Iwata was ill and wasn't doing well. So maybe that's why they didn't announce it. But here we are at year end. We still haven't heard about it. It would really surprise me if this console was coming out in 2016. So my bold prediction, no NX in 2016, excuse me. You're going to hear about the NX by GDC if it's coming out in 2016. So if you don't hear anything by March, it's just not happening. If you do, then I'm wrong, and I will have one in the miss column next to the 51 others in the he was right column, because the Pach is always right. Thanks, fellow babies. See you next week.